President Biden officially acknowledges Build Back Better will miss the deadline, but he says he is determined to see the bill on the Senate floor as early as possible. Air travel is ticking up as the industry prepares for what it expects to be a busy holiday season. The TSA screening over 2 million people on Thursday. And over 60,000 Afghan visa applicants remain in Afghanistan. This comes as the Pentagon decides no U.S. troops will be punished over the botched drone strike that killed 10 civilians. Tune in to Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Among the holiday rush, some things are getting pushed to the next year. Among them, President Biden's Build Back Better bill. The president says negotiations with Joe Manchin will cause lawmakers to miss the self-imposed Christmas deadline. Biden says his team is still in talks with the West Virginia senator and that he still thinks the bill will eventually pass. Biden saying in a written statement, "We will advance this work together over the days and weeks ahead," adding, "Leader Schumer and I are determined to see the bill successfully on the floor as soon as possible." Schumer saying on the Senate floor,
"The president requested more time to continue his negotiations, and so we will keep working with him, hand in hand, to bring this bill over the finish line and deliver on these much-needed provisions." At its core, Build Back Better is about making the greatest investment in the American people that we have seen in generations.
Some Democrats are expressing frustration over Manchin's desire to budget the child tax credit for 10 years instead of 1. Manchin has said he thinks it will become an annual credit and should be budgeted accordingly. The change would push the legislation over the senator's spending cap of $1.75 trillion. Biden wants the child tax credit to help reduce child poverty. Manchin says he supports at least some version of it, despite rumors he wanted to remove it from the bill. His real reservation, it seems, is inflation. Since September, Manchin has constantly expressed fears over the potentially disastrous financial effects of the Build Back Better Act, particularly over the risk that it will further increase inflation, which has gone up around 7% over the last 12 months. The newest inflation numbers have only increased Manchin's resolve on this front. Currently, inflation of the U.S. dollar is at its highest level in 39 years. Manchin has in the past warned that too much spending or too much inflation could hurt existing social programs, such as Social Security, Medicare, and others, or could hurt the United States' ability to respond to global or national threats from adversaries. Manchin said inflation is real, it's not transitory, adding, "It's alarming, it's going up, not down, and I think that should be something we're concerned about." And the rising inflation is being felt across the country, heightening financial pressures. Some are feeling it extra hard amid the holiday season. This Detroit area family is running up against price increases that are partly to blame for what they are expecting will be a rough holiday season.
My children will not have the type of Christmas that they are used to having. I can say that right now. I know that it will be hard for them because they're just children and most of them still do believe in Santa.
The government reported last week that consumer prices jumped 6.8% over the past year and the highest inflation rate in 39 years. Some of the largest cost spikes happen for such necessities as food, gas, housing, and clothing, goods and services that millions of Americans regularly depend on. Especially hard hit are lower income households.
It's kind of like a slap in the face of those families that don't make as much money, who are caught in the pandemic and can't even bring in more money to be able to sustain a lifestyle that prices are constantly raising up on.
Over the past 12 months, the cost paid by a typical American family has surged by roughly $4,000, according to calculations by Jason Furman, a Harvard economist and former Obama White House aide.
So I would definitely say that it is depressing and it has caused a great deal of stress to our family, for sure.
For American consumers, the 6.8% jump in inflation was the largest year-over-year increase since a 7.1% surge for the year ending in June 1982. Now, speaking of the holiday season, Christmas is still more than a week away, but holiday air travel is already starting. The Transportation Security Administration says it screened over 2 million people Thursday. That's the highest number since December 5th. The TSA says a total of 20 to 21 million people will fly between December 23rd and January 3rd. United Airlines believe its busiest time will be between now and next Thursday. The company thinks it will fly 20% more passengers during the winter holiday season than it did during Thanksgiving, when air travel set pandemic-era records. And speaking of traveling, let's take a moment to look at the Afghanistan situation. The number of Afghan refugees trying to leave the country is higher than previously thought. That's because the State Department told the Wall Street Journal that 62,000 visa applications of Afghan interpreters and others who assisted Americans are still in the country. Of those, the State Department says 33,000 have cleared vetting requirements and are eligible for evacuation. As for the remaining 29,000 visa applicants, those are in the earlier stages. These numbers do not include family members. U.S. evacuation flights have increased recently, but scheduling is down to two aspects: the weather and conditions at the partially operational Kabul airport. The Biden administration has come under intense scrutiny from both parties as to how the Afghanistan withdrawal was handled. During the withdrawal, the U.S. evacuated over 100,000 Afghans. Some made it through the crowds at Kabul airport without paperwork, while American citizens and visa applicants were unable to enter and board flights. More than 70,000 Afghans arrived in the U.S., but as for the rest, the State Department said it believes the majority of Afghans who worked alongside the U.S.-led NATO coalition were left behind. The U.S. has relocated 479 Americans and 450 U.S. residents with their families since the fall of Kabul. That's according to an update this week from the State Department. Part of the difficulty going forward is that the U.S. no longer has a diplomatic presence in Afghanistan. And now, staying on the Afghanistan topic, what about that drone strike that killed 10 civilians? The Pentagon saying earlier this week that no U.S. troops will be punished for the strike. The botched strike came after an ISIS-K suicide bomber killed 13 U.S. service members and many more Afghans in a bombing at an entrance to Kabul's international airport. The threat of another attack in the final days of the U.S. military withdrawal from Afghanistan compounded the pressure that led up to the drone strike. Following a review of the strike, the heads of Central Command and Special Operations Command were asked to make recommendations to improve Defense Department policies and procedures. But Pentagon Press Secretary John Kirby said their recommendations did not include holding any military personnel accountable or punishing troops involved in the strike.
Secretary reviewed their recommendations. I won't get into all of them. Some of them are understandably classified, but he approved their recommendations. So I do not anticipate there being issues of personal accountability to be had with respect to the August 29th airstrike.
Pentagon officials initially defended the strike before going on to call it a tragic mistake as a result of execution errors. The Pentagon later acknowledged that the military had tracked the wrong vehicle for hours as it built up what it thought was the evidence of dangerous activity needed to conduct a strike. Now, let's return to the U.S. and do a quick update on Kentucky. The Humane Society of Missouri is helping rescue animals displaced by recent tornadoes. Staff brought in 16 dogs from Bowling Green, Kentucky to St. Louis Thursday. They'll be up for adoption there in the coming days. The society says it has one of the nation's largest animal rescue disaster response teams, so it's able to assist other states when needed. And now, before we end, we have an announcement. As you might know, it's been over a year since Deep Dive began. And what a year it's been. We've covered politics, a changing administration, to the pandemic, to debates over the vaccine mandate, to court cases, from federal to the Supreme Court, from ancient artifacts to space exploration, and so much more. And as you may also know, I also host China in Focus. And with the new year fast approaching, there will be some changes. Tonight's episode will be the last deep dive for now. That's because bigger and better things are coming to China in Focus, where I will be more involved going forward. So this isn't goodbye. I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who has supported this channel, to those who've stuck around since day one, and for those who joined along the way, thank you. It's truly been an honor bringing you the news each day. I look forward to seeing you on China in Focus on NTD Television Network. And of course, to end in some lighter news, for those who've wondered about the takes that maybe weren't so good, enjoy a few outtakes. My hair has decided to change styles. I don't know. Thanks for tuning into Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and have a wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. Process presents. I think it's presents. Sorry.